right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I am absolutely thrilled that you are here. If you have never checked out our podcast before, welcome. Just to let you know, we are primarily an interview and a commentary podcast. You can find the Billy Dees podcast pretty much anywhere podcasts are found, including with friends over at Good Pods. If you enjoy independent podcasts, and I know you do, Good Pods is a great app to check out some of your favorite podcasts and find new ones. You can also find the Billy Dees podcast on Twitter at Billy Dees. That's kind of like my social media home. And be sure to follow, and you can tweet anytime. You just have to be nice. That's all I ask. It's okay to disagree, but you just, be cool. That's all I'm asking. This is going to be more or less our holiday edition podcast. And if you're anything like me, you're like, oh boy, I don't want to hear this. Okay. First of all, I am not a ho type of guy. Okay. But this time of year can bring a certain amount of stress and what you might call the winter blues. So we're going to talk about some common sense ways, I guess, to alleviate what you may be going through in the way of maybe just not being into the holiday spirit or having a case of the winter blues or something like that. Now, obviously, I'm going to be a little flippant with some of this, but I just want to take a moment and be very serious just for a moment. This time of year can be very difficult for some people who might be battling some issues to begin with in terms of their emotional stability. So with that being said, okay, if simple lifestyle changes, some simple tips, things you can do doesn't improve what you are feeling, and if you start to sense that you're going down deep into a very dangerous hole, let's say, for example, you're entertaining some urges in terms of harming yourself. Okay, this is very serious. You can do a couple of things. First of all, you can call 911 and explain your situation. You can go immediately to a hospital emergency room, or you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. And that is 1-800-273-8255. For most of us, the holiday blues, the winter blues, whatever you may call them, is just something, well, in my case, it's being a Scrooge. But it's just something that every so often, one year in particular, or what have you, there's just something that doesn't grab you about the holiday season, okay? But it's not as uncommon as you may believe. Approximately 14% of Americans experience some sort of winter blues or holiday blues. And this can include, the symptoms can include a couple of different things, and it's the obvious. You just don't feel like getting out of bed and getting started in the morning. Things are just, there's too many parties, there's too many gifts you have to buy, there's too many pressures on you to be happy. And making dinner and doing just basic things come with a struggle. And this can include being more tired than usual. And you may be distracted at work and having trouble with concentrating, things of that nature. So what are some basic everyday things that you can do to avoid kind of getting in the holiday slump, so to speak? For me, I don't really have anything against the holidays per se, but holidays in general, whether it be throughout the year, Memorial Day weekend, July 4th, I enjoy the time off and all of these other things. But one of the things that I don't like is the disruption it causes in my professional life. I lose the contact that I normally have with clients. Projects get put on hold, and then you have to come back and revisit them and start over at certain places. And that type of thing can be very frustrating, but it's something that, we have to go through. And there's a couple of suggestions that I'm going to go through here that are generally available on the internet. You can search these things out, ways to avoid the winter blues. Most of them are common sense, but sometimes it is good to hear them, just to get those things reinforced. Now, the first one here is kind of obvious, and for me, this has never been a problem, and that is limit your alcohol consumption. I've never really developed a taste for alcohol, so I've never really had the problem of drinking too much at any given time. Now, I did work in the nightclub industry for a number of years, actually a long time, a couple decades. And we in that industry always kind of dreaded the Christmas season because people would come in, let's say with their company party or what have you. The last time they were in a situation where there was drinking was their wedding, which was 10 years ago. And they were inexperienced drinkers, so to speak. And the boss is footing the bill. Hey, everybody, let's have a good time, what have you. And the next thing you know, a couple of these people who haven't had a drink in years have had one or two or possibly three, and they're drunk off of their behind, and they're acting like an absolute jerk. Okay. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but drinking to excess can affect your mood and amplify any negative feelings that you already may have. So if you're at this Christmas party and you're starting to take in alcohol and you're already upset about the fact that your Christmas bonus isn't what you expected, the next thing you know, you're mouthing off to the boss. Or you're going home and you feel even worse about the fact that you didn't get the promotion, you didn't get the raise, you didn't get the big bonus you were expecting. So just be very careful in terms of how you take in alcohol during this time of year. This next kind of tip is related, but it's something that I am much more apt to have an issue with, and that is overeating. This time of year, people bring all kinds of cookies to work, and there's all kinds of candy readily available, and you just have to manage your intake. I was out with my wife this evening. As a matter of fact, we went to a very nice restaurant. We had a very nice meal. And of course, it comes that time, what do you want for dessert? And I did not feel full. You know what I mean? I didn't feel like, oh, how am I going to walk out of here? And I had a good meal and I was happy. And my wife and I both decided to pass on dessert because what would have happened is I would have eaten this big piece of pie with ice cream and all this other stuff. And I would have come home at that point saying, oh, what did I just do to myself? And that's something that you want to avoid. It's just, here again, you want to feel energy. You want to feel good. And if this time of year, the change in schedule and everything else is affecting your mood, the last thing you want to do is be planted on a couch for 2 or 3 hours recovering from some large meal. Holiday outings can very much affect your mood and overall well-being when you stuff yourself to the absolute max. The next thing that you want to try to do is get plenty of sleep. And that can be important for all of the very common sense reasons. But when you don't have enough sleep, especially in my case, and I'm guilty of this, when I'm not on full power, something that may be a slight aggravation normally all of a sudden becomes a high point of aggravation. It gets me down that much more. So you want to try to be careful not to get yourself in those situations, especially during the holidays when there's lots of things that come up. Lots of changes of plans can come up. And you want to make sure that your energy is really up there and you feel like you're ready to take on the day no matter what it hands you. Again, this next tip is kind of related to the previous one, but you don't want to keep yourself too occupied with all kinds of Christmas festivities. Don't busy yourself up. And it's hard to do sometimes when you have relatives or friends and they're all having Christmas parties and they all expect you to show up. And people do with the holidays a lot of times what they do with vacations, in my opinion. You know, to me, a vacation is going somewhere and relaxing. I'm having the time off. In my case, I like to go somewhere warm. And I want to be around water and get some sunshine and all these other things. I don't want a giant itinerary every day of my vacation. We got to go here. We got to go there. We got to get pictures of this. We have to do that. If you let your holidays turn into that, okay, no matter what your disposition normally is, it stands a good chance of getting past you. You're not going to enjoy those moments, those special moments, whether it be with your family, your friends, your loved ones. Choose wisely. There's going to be times when you're going to have to tell someone no. And I know that's very difficult because nobody wants to be the person that doesn't show up to someone's Christmas party. But if you have friends and family with very active things going on during the holidays, you just simply cannot make them all. It will do yourself a disservice in terms of how you are going to enjoy the holidays. And I'm throwing that in there as my opinion. Okay. After the holidays, I want to feel fresh and ready to start the new year. I don't want to feel like I need to be in the hospital for a week to recover from what my schedule was like the previous 2 or 3 weeks. All right. While we're on the subject of your holiday schedule, this is kind of the opposite side of the point that we just talked about, and that is don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to try new traditions. If you have new family members or new friends in your circle who may be part of a different culture, and they want you to try some food that you normally would never try or something like that, go for it. Or if somebody suggests, you know what, hey, I always hear those lights over in the next town over are fantastic. I've never had a chance to check them out. Let's hop in the car and let's go check those lights out. Let's find out what everybody's talking about there. Go for it. Try new things. Get out of your comfort zone of what you feel traditional holiday festivities, events should be like. And you might find yourself really enjoying that time and having a new experience. Take advantage of the holiday festivities around you as much as don't do too much of them. Okay, just try to strike that balance, and it might serve you pretty well. This next suggestion comes straight from the department of, it's obvious, but we don't really do it that much, and that is, don't be hesitant to spend time with people who care about you, whether it's your family or your friends. A lot of times, if you're feeling lonely or what have you, you feel that when your friends say, hey, why don't you come over for dinner? You feel like maybe they feel sorry for you, or you're a charity, or you're going to be a fifth wheel. And generally speaking, and when people care about you, they want you with them. And of course, I'm not saying to overstay your welcome, but a lot of times, just like we were talking about earlier, other people really take advantage of this time of not having to work and having these social opportunities. They are taking advantage of this time to get to know you better, or spend time with you, or find out how you're doing. How's the new job? Don't hesitate when somebody says, hey, why don't you come on over? If you're feeling lonely and maybe you're kind of bored, take advantage of that opportunity. Spend time with people who care about you. This next little tip is kind of related to what we were talking about with overeating, but it's the other side of that. And that is, you want to keep exercising during the holiday season. And it's very easy to make excuses not to this time of year, because why? Well, we're so busy, right? We got to go here, we got to go there, and it's so easy to say, I just don't have time for exercise. I'll get back to it after the first of the year. And what we forget is even if it's just a 10-minute walk, what that will do for you is it will boost your energy. It will make you feel robust. And anything that might be nagging at you in terms of the winter blues or the holiday blues, you'll be able to manage that much better when you feel good about yourself and you feel active. That's something that is so important, and it's so easy to make excuses not to do it. This next little tip might be something that a lot of us can't do depending on where we live, especially with time constraints. But if you can, getting back to the exercise, getting back to nature can really be a wonderful thing. I have a couple of friends that they say when they go for a walk in their local park and they walk through the trees and they go on these trails, even in the wintertime, they bundle up and they go. It's just such a great way to take a wellness break. You know, keep your phone in the car or turn it off and put it in your pocket. And don't be answering all kinds of ding, 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 all kinds of texts coming in, checking your email. Just take a nice walk outside. Feel the cool air, you know, inhale it. It's nice and crisp. And you're moving, you're exercising, and you're enjoying nature, and you're just letting all the fuss stop for a while. It can be such a twofold thing. It can be so powerful for you physically, but it can also be so beneficial in terms of what it will do for your state of mind. So if you can, get back to nature once in a while. It's a great way to feel good. This next little tidbit of information is a little bit more difficult, and that is if you're mourning the loss of a loved one, the holidays can obviously be very sad. The memories of Christmases past and other things can be very challenging. And what happens a lot of times, we have a tendency to isolate ourselves, to go through some sort of a mourning process. And don't be afraid. I touched on this earlier. Let your friends, let your family be your friends and your family. They will perfectly understand in most cases if, hey, can you come over? Can I come over? Can we talk a little bit on the phone? Something like that can mean the world. And again, if the weight of this starts to become too much, don't be afraid to reach out for professional help. There's such a stigma sometimes with reaching out for help when it comes to our mental health. And I've never really quite understood that. You know, if you hurt your elbow, okay, if you fall down the steps and you hurt your elbow, you're going to go to the doctor. All right. And the same thing goes for matters of emotions. There are times when our emotional state can be broken, just like your elbow can. And there's absolutely no reason why you should feel in any way, shape, or form weak by asking for help, whether it be from a trusted loved one, friend, what have you, or going the next step and getting professional help. Don't let yourself fall into an isolated hole during this time of year. This next situation is very much related, and that is if you have been through a bad breakup. Sometimes the holidays can be very tough. Now, in my case, quite frankly, over the years in the past, I have been in some very bad relationships. So anytime that I was sitting at home on Christmas all by myself, feeling sorry for myself, I was counting my blessings. But not everybody feels that way. Sometimes a bad breakup can be just as bad as the loss of a family member. And of course, it gets more complicated when there's a divorce, there's children involved, there's children that are going to be with your ex and your ex's family, and you're going to be without them. It's just a very complicated time. And this is a classic example, again, of reaching out to the people that care about you. And this is also a good time to keep those activities on the list. This is one time where you want to be active, you want to be in social environments, and you don't want to be sitting at home all by yourself dwelling on how this wasn't how it was last year. If you go down that road, okay, it can lead to some very uncomfortable places for you. So you want to, again, make sure that your social calendar is active when you're feeling these emotions during this time. And you want to be able to reach out to friends. And again, I can't say it enough. Don't be afraid to ask for professional help if it comes to that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that. This last little tip is probably my favorite one. No matter what you are going through during the holiday season, whatever is making you feel the winter blues or the holiday blues, why not take this opportunity and make the world a better place? There's a lot of volunteer work that's always available throughout the year, but in particular during the holidays, because a lot of, let's say, nonprofit organizations reach out to the homeless or to the disadvantaged, or sometimes they reach out to older people who don't have family members around to visit them. This is a great opportunity, not only to get your own self away from the blues, but it's a great time to help other people do the same thing. Helping someone is a fantastic dividend. I was speaking to someone not too long ago, and I was speaking about some of the work that I do for nonprofits, and the subject came up, well, you don't get rich working for a nonprofit, and that is for the most part very true. Most people who are involved in the world of nonprofits are there because they want to be. And the person that I was talking to, I was trying to explain this to him, and he kept saying, well, what's the benefit? He could not comprehend. It wasn't just a matter of agreeing or disagreeing with me, but he didn't even understand the point that I was trying to make. And I finally got through to him, I believe, on some level when I started talking about enriching someone's happiness and how mutually beneficial that can be between you and other people. And his comment was something to the effect of like, well, I just don't have the strength to do that type of work. And I got to tell you, that's a cop-out. I hear that a lot, and that's a cop-out. That is an excuse. That is an excuse that is used when the person saying it is more preoccupied with their own situation than they are with anyone else. We are social creatures. There's nothing that'll make you feel better, at least in my opinion. There's nothing that'll make you feel better in this world more than making somebody else feel better. And it doesn't have to cost a lot. It doesn't even really need to take a lot of time. You would be surprised how much just an hour or two on a Saturday afternoon can make a difference in someone's life whose troubles and circumstances are far worse than anything that you are going through. So don't scratch this off your list. Even if you are happy, even if you are content, helping someone will make you feel so much better. It will put you in the stratosphere of happiness. Help others. Care about others. Don't get too self-absorbed in your own issues, in your own problems. There's other ones out there as well. All right, there's our holiday episode, so to speak. Just a little programming note here. I would like to do an episode sometime between Christmas and New Year's. I've talked about this before, but sometimes that time period can be hard to predict in terms of listener habits. However, I would like to put something in there because I'm a really big proponent of consistency. And I feel that an episode in there would probably do very well. In any case, after the first of the year, we will be back on our regular schedule of interviews, authors, people's personal journeys, And we will have more commentaries for you as well. And I will also be doing the episodes where I have a co-host and we're talking about current events and a lot of other things. So the Billy Dees podcast, you can, like I said before, find on pretty much any of the most popular podcasting platforms. Twitter, I would say, is kind of like our social media home. So if you go there in the bio, there's links to our other social media and other places that you can find us online. And speaking of Twitter Spaces is something that we are going to be experimenting with in 2022. So more to come on that. I am Billy Dees. Have yourself a fantastic holiday season, and I will be talking to you again very soon. Well, hello, everyone. I am Billy Dees from the self-titled Billy Dees podcast. You can find me on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and many more of the best podcast networks. Join me for my commentary and interviews. Follow me on Twitter, real easy to find, at Billy Dees. I am Billy Dees. I'd love to have you listen in.